So, Max Nagl, I don't know how you do it. 36 years old, you've been away from MXGP for quite a while, but watching you race the ADAC MX Masters, you're still riding really well. You won another title
Yeah.
at the weekend. What's your secret to being so fast at 36, and how did it feel to win another championship?
Yeah, actually, it's not easy to be still in that shape on the high age, because I have to put really a lot of effort in, like in the winter, of course, and during all year. Actually, I'm doing almost the same trainings program as I was doing before in the MXGP when I was still racing. But it's getting more difficult, especially the recovery is more and more a challenge for me after the races. But I still enjoy a lot what I'm doing, and that's why it's not a big problem for me still to put that much effort in.
And just winning the title, I mean, how did it feel? It must have felt amazing to win another title.
Can you please repeat what you mean?
Yeah, just to win another title, it must have felt amazing to win another championship.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, it's now the 6th title I have in this championship, and the ADAC, the ADAC MX Masters Championship, is getting more and more a challenge every year, because more and more GP riders, not racing GPs anymore, start racing in the ADAC, and more from the youth riders are coming up. So the competition is getting stronger and stronger at the moment every year.
And I remember watching Dreets last year. The track was rough last year, but I think this year it was even more gnarly and almost as deep as Lommel. But you seemed to love it out there and dominated the last round. How did it feel to win the championship in style, and you must have loved the track?
Yeah, of course. I mean, first of all, I'm living in Belgium now for many years, so I'm practicing Lommel and all these kind of tracks a lot. So I'm really used to the rough sand tracks. And this year it was more rough, because some riders were complaining last year it was too flat, like they were working too much on the tracks. So now this year they didn't do almost anything, only the jumps. But like I said, I'm just used to it, because I'm living in Lommel.
And this year you made the switch to KMP Honda. I think since you've been away from MXGP, you've pretty much been on KTM and Husqvarna machinery. What was it like getting back on a Honda? I think from memory, the last time you raced a Honda was probably when you were full factory Honda rider in MXGP.
Yes, that's true. Actually, most of the time in my career I spent on a KTM or Husqvarna. But it was a great bike and a great time, but it was getting a bit boring for me, because I've been there so many years and I wanted to get a new challenge. So that's why I decided to find a Japanese bike, and with KMP, with Honda, I could find the best solution. And I still remember from 2013 and 14 when I was factory rider for HRC, the bike, and it suits me really well, because a Honda is a little bit smaller, like an KTM, and I'm quite small guy, so it was just a perfect match.
And looking back at your career, I remember you raced in Ireland many years ago on a privateer team. I think your dad was also involved, but after that you were a factory rider quite quickly. What was it like making that step up in your career and being a full factory rider at a pretty young age?
Yeah, I guess it's most of the motocross riders, it's their dream to become once in their life a factory rider. And I could make it quite early, because I was feeling immediately comfortable on the big bike, like on the 450. So I swapped also really early to the big category, to the MXoN, it was called that time. And then I get with KTM the factory deal in 2008. And then I could stay in factory teams actually all my career. So it was a great time, yeah.
And to go back to 2008, I think you won your first GP overall at Firenze, Italy, and you did it in style,
Yes.
1-1. just how did it feel that day to win your first overall? It must have felt amazing because obviously that's what you worked for your whole career.
Yeah, it was amazing, and it was a big surprise because nobody expected anything like this, not even myself, because you had riders at that time like Joshua Coppins and all the big heroes, from that area. I was still a really young guy, and I won both motos with almost a half a minute in front. Still today, I don't know how I did. I just remember I had a really good bike, like a really strong engine, and in Faenza with all the uphills, it was just great to ride the bike there. And it was the last race of the season, so it was like a perfect ending, yeah.
And back when you were racing, there wasn't much focus on the Emx Championships. What was it like being a young rider trying to make a name for yourself? I think these days, the way the Emx Championships, there's a lot of focus on those as they run the same weekend as MXGP, so there's a lot of eyes on that. What was it like for you trying to make a name for yourself?
Yeah, it was a big difference in my youth, because the European Championship, it was completely separate from the World Championship. It was different races, different places, and it was not that famous. Still, it was the category under the MXGP, but nobody was really interested in it, like the big teams. So you always had to prove and show yourself at the GP races to maybe get in a good spot in a good team. Where these days the riders can show it already in the EMX to maybe get a factory deal the year after for the World Championship.
And when you look back at your career, I mean, you raced for most factory teams that were around in your time. KTM, Honda, Husqvarna and TM. You won a lot of GPs, you made a lot of podiums. You must be very proud when you look back of your career at what you were able to achieve.
Yes. Actually, I could achieve everything except the World Championship in the MXGP category, because like I was third in the championship, I was second. We won the Team Germany with the Nations the title, and only the title for myself I was missing. I was really close in 2015. I was leading the championship with 50 points ahead, and then broke my ankle in Teutschenthal. That was my biggest chance, but that's actually the only thing I couldn't achieve in my career, yeah.
And when you were a factory KTM rider, you had a young Antonio Crowley join you as a teammate. What was it like when he came under the awning? Obviously, back then, none of us knew what he was going to achieve, but what an amazing career, and what was it like having him as a teammate? Because obviously he was sort of the main man there.
Yeah, it was, how should I say it? In 2009, he was on Yamaha and I was on KTM, and we raced both for the title. So in 2009, he was world champion, I was second. And then the year after, for 2010, they took him to KTM next to me. And the problem was the whole team. It was normally KTM factory from Austria, but then the whole team swapped to Italy, to Di Carli. So actually I was transferred from my home to Italy, and I was not feeling so comfortable with it at that time. So it was a big challenge for me to find my place there.
And on 2015, just to touch on that a little bit more, I mean, coming into that season, the hype was real for MXGP. Everyone was talking about Ran Villapoto versus Antonio Crowley, but you had other ideas that year. I mean, you were looking so good in the Husqvarna. As you said, after 9 rounds of the championship, you had the red plate, a nice points gap. I think that year was probably your best ever year in terms of your riding. What was it about that year? I mean, did you change anything coming into the season?
Yeah, it's true. That was actually my best year. And the 2 points were, first of all, the 2015 Husky bike. I think it was the best bike ever I rode in that year. It was such a good bike. Later they changed the bikes. In 2016 there were coming brand new bikes, and 17, and it was a struggle for me. But the 15 bike was just so much better. And the second thing was like you said, the hype over the winter, it was everybody only talked about Filippo and Crowley, and nobody was talking about other riders or myself. And this put me into really motivation position. Like I wanted to show for myself, not for the people outside, but for myself, that I'm able to race with them, like especially Filippo and Caroli. And that's why I was really pushing it, and it paid out actually until Deutschenthal.
Yeah, and just on Germany, you got injured, and from memory, I think it was quite an unlucky start crash. How difficult was that to deal with, though? It was just looking like your year, and then boom, season over. It must have been pretty devastating and heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was terrible. I mean, it was also at my home GP, and it was on Saturday at the qualification race. It was just a small tip over, a small crash, but then one rider ran over my ankle and it got broken. So I went immediately on Saturday evening, still in hospital for operation, to get it fixed quickly as possible. Because even I missed the GP in Deutschenthal and then the next GP in Kegums, I was still leading the championship. So there was still a chance, and I wanted to took it, but the operation wasn't made really well at that time. So the healing took way longer than we expected, and then the season was over, yeah.
And just on your last full factory ride in MXGP, it was with Factory TM in 2018. What was it like being part of that team, and what was the bike like? Was it very different than the other factory bikes you had? I also did an interview with Sean Simpson, and he said the communication for him was quite tricky with them speaking Italian. But how was your experience being with TM?
Honestly, for me, the team was the best team I ever rode in my career. It was such a like a family atmosphere and such a nice people. What I had at that time in the team, it was amazing. And the bike, it was also, when I changed to TM, everybody said that's the end of the career, because nobody believed in TM that it's a good bike. I believed in it, and actually I was really surprised when I did my first testing days in Italy. And then I immediately said I want to go for it. So we made the contract, we did some testing, and we could get the bike on a really good level, really good stage. And with this bike, we also had a lot of good results in the GPs, and I won a lot ADAC races too. So actually, it was a really good year we had with TM, yeah. And if I would have the chance, I would go back to it even, because it was really a great time.
And just on German motocross a little bit, obviously a young Ken Roczen burst onto the scene at 15 years old, but after him, maybe aside from maybe Brand Sue, but it didn't really work out for him. But now we have the young Simon Lagenfelder, who I think is a really underrated rider. He's still only 19 years old. What's your thoughts on him as a rider?
Yeah, Simon, it's great to have another German rider finally, because after Kenny and myself, there was a gap. There was nobody from Germany, so now at least we have one upcoming rider. And in MX2, he's doing a great job now, and he still have 2 or 3 years to go on MX2, having the chance to fight for a title. And then when he moves in MXGP, then we have to see if he's capable to ride also with the big bike fast like he does now, and then compete with the big guys, But at the moment, he does a great job.
And last year, I was parked beside you at Redbud Motocross the Nations, and as we were leaving, you said it's probably going to be your last Motocross the Nations, and that does look to be the case. But just on this year, I mean, did the German Federation contact you to race the event? I mean, on paper, you, Roczen and Lagenfelder would have been an amazing team, but I'm sure you have your reasons as to not race.
Yeah, actually, they contacted me beginning of the year, begging actually to race the nations, and I said, like, give me a little bit time. First, I need to see how the racing will go with the Honda, and then I found out quickly that the Honda suits me really well. So I told them, yes, I will go. I will race the nations. So the decision was actually made, and then at one point they changed their decision. It was not my decision. They called me out of the Team Germany, for I don't know which reason. Actually, I don't know till today. And then Koch is racing. For me, it's fine because he also deserved to race there. He's doing really well at the MXGP this year, so it's good for him to get a chance for a ride. And I have done the Nations now 19 years, so this would have been my 20th MX of Nations. So it's not a disaster for me to not race anymore.
Okay, it's good to know that you were open for racing though. Would you keep that door open?
Yeah.
And if they contacted you next year, if you're still having a good season and feel you can be competitive, would you race the event next year again if you have the opportunity?
Depends also where it is. Actually, I don't know yet. Where we're gonna race next year.
Matterley Basin, I think.
I heard something. Yeah, that's a nice place. It's a nice track. Yeah, I'm always open for it. If I'm still physically and healthy wise in a good shape, then yes. If I'm not feeling 100%, then I wouldn't do it anymore. No.
Yeah, and 36 years old, you're still flying, riding really well. But I'm not going to lie, I would love to see you race at least one more MXGP event before you retire. Any possibilities of a wild card on MXGP maybe next year? And just on MXGP, what's your thoughts on the level these days? It's very high.
Yeah, not really. They tried already last year to get me to at least Teutschenthal, and also this year. But I'm not interested because first of all, I'm already in a higher age. I would be the oldest rider, and I had my career in MXGP. There's nothing I have to prove anymore. Even if I could make like a top 10 result, what would be possible, and it would be great. What's the return for me? If you're a young rider, you have to take any chance you can get. But for me, even if I make a piece 5 or 6 or whatever, it doesn't bring anything. You don't get anything for it, you know. On Monday, everybody forgot already about it. So, and you really have to put a lot of costs and effort in to do one GP, and that's why I'm not interested in it.
And just on 2024, will you continue to race in Germany? And if so, how many years do you see yourself going for? As you say, you still seem to be enjoying it, and you're still very, very fast.
Yeah, at the moment I take it year by year. So all the contracts what I make, it's only a 1-year contract, so that anytime I can decide, okay, now it's done, I'm gonna stop. I haven't signed my new contract yet for next year. But Honda wants to continue for the German Championship like this year, and then some international races. And soon I will take my decision, but I guess I still will do another year, yeah.
And a few years ago, you were involved in some coaching. I know you worked with Kevin Bruman when he started to make a name for himself in the EMX 125 class. Do you see yourself staying in the sport after you do hang up the boots to coach the next generation? And actually, are you coaching at the minute also?
Yeah, that's true. I was really into it a lot the last 2 years. Now I reduced it a little bit because it was getting too much work for me, like with all the trainings for the guys and still training and preparing myself for the races. I was a little bit running on the edge, so now I'm taking only 1 or 2 riders per year, not more. But later, when I'm completely done with my riding, then I'm seeing myself doing it a bit more, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time, Max.